Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys, and we're going to talk about Bitcoin, the flush, altcoins, crypto stocks. I'm currently in a bounce trade. There's a lot to talk about here, and there's a lot going on. Appreciate the likes and the shares and the motivation to keep making content. Just a little note before I forget and we get into it. Just came across a Twitter post from an individual who's been making YouTube videos, educational content for 13 years, and they blew up a 7-figure account, and they were transparent enough to share that with everybody. But just a reminder, you can be over a decade into the game and think you've got it down, and just one trade, one time losing your grip on control can lead to an account blowing up. And certainly that's the case in crypto, and that has happened to some people in the last 24 hours. And so we can see on the right side here, we've got a bunch of red, and I certainly did not predict that we were about to dump, but the signs were there. If you did not watch the video I put out over the weekend with regards to cryptocurrency, there's two videos. One of them is related to stock trading, but the crypto video I put out on Saturday morning, that's one that's worth watching, even though it is a little bit in hindsight, because there's a lot of educational concepts in that video, and I went a little bit more in depth on the educational side of things, but also was talking about such things as, this morning I'm seeing the most posts on social media showing dollar gains and percentage gains. And my response to that was, that's not enough to say that we're about to dump, but that's a data point. And that puts a little flashing red light in our brains that says, hey, this means be a little bit cautious, because everybody's leaning on one side of the boat, and that is when the boat flips over. And so that was one of the little signals. And again, just talking, here's an example of looking for longs getting a little bit overextended to the leverage side of things. And I personally don't utilize this. This is how trading is a bit of a team game. Shout out to Steve, where I can reach out to other people who do watch certain aspects of the crypto space that I don't watch, and say, hey, what are you seeing here? You know this stuff more than I do. My edge is price action and all that. What are you seeing? And so this was back on Tuesday. And at that point, obviously, the bulls are still in complete control. After that big bull day, I'm feeling euphoria and saying, how over leveraged are we? Because we're due for some longs to get liquidated. And got some nice info and saw that recently that it was upticking a bit. Also had the conversation with my friend who is all in cryptocurrency. And Tuesday, I don't suppose taking some profit is up for discussion. And now the ETF, hundreds of billions are going to be coming into Bitcoin. And I tried to get him to take some profit, but he's still all right. So anyways, just little data points of this is not surprising. The other data point was 2 months of straight up. We know this weekly consolidation is inevitable, and it's now shaping up more so now than ever. And a lot of altcoins have already started weekly consolidation, ETH included. So as I mentioned recently, I've been taking profit into this euphoria because, again, I'm trained to do that as a trader. I see euphoria, I take profit. And so I sold some at 42, I sold some at 44, and I was considering getting back in some when we were in this sideways range, but last night I started to get a little bit of cold feet saying, I'm going to wait a little bit, let this play out. And then on this flush, I did grab some last night, reloaded the position pretty much from 42 that I sold. I rebought it right under 42. And so now I've got 2/3 of a position. I sold some at 44, and I will look to reload that 44 position somewhere perhaps around 38,000 when looking for a weekly higher low. So that's my swing trade game plan. Again, especially what was also unusual was the amount of pushback people were getting for taking profit into euphoria. That was a bit unusual, but what now? So we know to look for tightening ranges after that volatility, and we had, a tightening hourly range and tightening 15-minute ranges. And so now I am anticipating at least an attempt to defend the low of last night. And that's the bounce that's currently underway, and I am currently in an MARA bounce. And the mindset here was I expect a Bitcoin 4-hour higher low versus the overnight low as the most likely scenario. Still all bears, but likely to see a temporary bottom soon, making a bottom fish attempt on MARA. And so then my mindset, it took me 2 tries, but I enter some and then I sell partial real quick and then I just stick my stop under the low of the day, and I'm either risk-free or tiny risk. And at this point, I did go a little bit aggressive because I did have my stop loss right nearby, but now I'm back to a normal position size, and my target's going to be, it was 15-minute EMA 12. We're almost getting there. I might try and hold out for an hourly bounce to get a little bit of follow through, but again, I've also taken 75% of the position off at this point to be able to let a little bit of a runner play out. And again, it was just Bitcoin's approaching support and looking for, MARA has been crushed today. Big drop. This is a long squeeze. So what's a long squeeze? We just saw it happen in crypto, but it's when you get extremely confident and then there's a trap. So this is the risk of holding these crypto stocks over the weekend, and it's why I won't do it. Why? Because you stop out, if you're a Bitcoin bull with a tight, diligent stop, you stop out at 42.8 and you skip 5% of downside. If you're in these crypto stocks, your hands are literally tied. You cannot act on that dump candle. And so you have a huge green candle on Friday, closing at the highs. Oh, what a great day. I'm real confident, holding my position, counting my money. And then we open at the low of Friday and then just flush. And suddenly, anybody that's gone long in the last 5 days is in the red. And so that trapped longs. But again, just playing this short-term oversold bounce and anticipating a lower high to be the result of that bounce. Bitcoin bulls have to confirm a 15-minute uptrend here if we're going to have any confidence that this overnight low can hold. Even if this overnight low holds right now, we then look for a 4-hour tightening range and another lower high. And I'm anticipating that more downside is coming. Why? Because the weekly time frame still has not started consolidation. It's still a weekly stair-step pattern with a higher low every week. So I'm anticipating that we do see a bit more downside, that we potentially head towards 38,000 support. Remember, 38,000 was tough resistance. Bulls really want that level to act as support to keep weekly consolidation healthy. Another thing worth noting is the stock market bulls are in full control right now, and we're hitting many month highs on SPY and QQQ still. So the weakness that we're seeing is specific to crypto. A lot of the big tech names dumped today, but the market as a whole is holding on strong overall. So 4-hour tightening range on watch, but the bulls still have proving to do, because the bears are making a good attempt here at trying to take out that low of 40.3 thousand, flush 40,000, and again, just see another leg down. So there's only 2 things that happen from here. We either see a 4-hour tightening range or a fresh low into some pretty extreme short-term oversold conditions. Keep in mind, backburners are off the table right now because we used up the hourly, we used up the 4-hour last night, 4-hour oversold. So at this point, I'm watching for 12-hour to get oversold to scout a weekly higher low, and that's not close to taking shape. So just be aware that most names, backburners are now off the table because we look for backburners after the breakout, and we have now pulled back significantly since the last breakout. So just didn't have support established on the way up, and that's part of that euphoria. We had 38 as a level, and then 42.8 as a level, and pretty much nothing in between, which is why it's so easy to fall back down through those levels. So again, this is, a learning experience for many people to counteract. We have to learn to counteract our emotions, because everybody's emotions last Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday were saying, don't take any profit, we're going higher, and you have to combat that. And again, having a long-term no-touch position allows me the psychological ease of taking profit on shorter-term positions. So we'll scout a weekly higher low eventually, but not shaping up just yet. ETH, so again, big drop, daily stair-step pattern, broke bear at 23.38. And so again, just if you go watch the video, actually I take that back. It wasn't an official stair-step by a few dollars there, but I love stair-step as a strategy. If you Google ChartGuys stair-step, learn more about it. Sometimes it makes things nice and simple, but big drop into weekly consolidation for ETH. Tons of space for a weekly higher low. We're going to measure our retracement size on this pullback. And right now, There are no red flags. Again, this is inevitable. I've probably been saying it for 2-3 weeks. So again, I'm not nailing the top. I'm just saying that we know weekly consolidation is coming. If you're looking for longer term swing entries, you're waiting for weekly consolidation at this point. And so here it is. 4 hour for ETH. Again, going to be viewing it as the low. The high of the bounce is a resistance level, 2250s. And now trying for the higher low to tighten up. ETH BTC still not proving anything. Let's see if that shifts. We have to break. Let's go to the 12 hour. Because what I see on ETH BTC is just big green day and then slow bleed, give it back. Big green day, slow bleed, give it back. So let's see if that can shift. And if it's going to shift, we've got to break this 12-hour downtrend resistance line. Again, just a good visual guide. Nothing changes. The bears keep full control. If this is resistance, if we get over it and break the recent high, it'll be the first sign of a bit of a shift. And the dominance chart is dropping here, showing us that it is Bitcoin leading the way down. And again, the weekly bull flag, we talked about it in the video over the weekend, the weekly bull flag confirming with zero follow through means keep an eye out for the potential of a reversal. And so now weekly consolidation on dominance is underway. And again, the altcoins are definitely getting hit a lot as well. So let's just quickly run down here and see which names have weekly consolidation underway. Again, this move isn't over right now. The bears are still gunning for that 40.3 thousand low. There's nothing convincing about this bounce that tells me that we're safe for now. Maybe that shapes up, but I do not have high conviction at the moment. We need another 5-minute higher low and higher high. We got to get, 41.2 thousand plus. So we're still open to the possibility of a flush of 40,000 here. It's a potential 15-minute bear flag. Simple statement, let's just look back the last 5 hours. If 15-minute EMA 12 is resistance, the bulls are not proving a thing. So quick rundown here on the weekly time frames. Who's got weekly consolidation underway? Sushi, underway. Link, underway. Dot, not yet. I already had it. Matic, already had it. Matic's got a tightening range now. Ape, who cares? XTZ, already had it. So I'm really just looking at the names. ADA, not yet. Still a weekly inside bar. I'm looking at the names that were stair steps that broke them. ADA is still a stair step. Mana already had consolidation underway. Sol, what's Sol doing? Sol still has it. The weekly stair step holding on. LTC. Litecoin is looking for a monthly lower high. I mean, this is, as long as LTC BTC is hitting all-time lows, it's trying to put in a temporary bottom, but LTC USD is going to be watching for a monthly lower high. Anything under 115. We didn't even get anywhere near that level. I can't think of any other altcoins off the top of my head that a monthly lower high is the most likely scenario compared to levels that we hit over the summer. RNDR, significant bounce. So there are some names that have had really nice bounces. RNDR being one of them. Tons of space for a 4-hour higher low on consolidation. OP with a monster bounce is looking for a 4-hour higher low. So there's only a few names that are holding on strong. But again, it's just shaping up like weekly consolidation. And just aware that if Bitcoin does see weekly consolidation, that means another leg down is coming. And that can drag things down a bit further first as we look towards 12-hour oversold conditions on Bitcoin from here. All right. You watch my videos all the time. I said there is nothing to worry about. I probably did. That's probably a direct quote. And so, but again, I'm telling you I'm taking profit. I'm taking profit into strength when there are no red flags. Because things change quickly. We go from FOMO to fear and fear to FOMO very quickly. So I was probably saying there are no red flags, but I'm taking profit. So what does that mean? That means it's a good time to take profit. That's really to counteract. If I say I'm taking profit and there's no red flags on the chart, I just don't want people to, exit their full position because I am. That's exactly what was taking place. There were no red flags and I was taking profit. Just little red flags. Too much euphoria. Too many people posting gains. Appreciate the like buttons. 300 viewers, 78 likes. That's a shit ratio. I forgive you. Uni. So Uni, we can easily see just right off the bat, that's one of the weaker bounces because we didn't even break to set a 4-hour lower high and we already dropped to a lower low. Daily chart, there is a base of support here that is trying to hold. Look at all this price action. So that is still a support zone, 580 to 590. Hourly downtrend nice and clear. Keeping an eye out for first 4-hour oversold conditions. So if an aggressive bull is looking to make a play, it's looking to play off of 580 support. At this point, with where we stand on Bitcoin, I would almost be more comfortable if we just break the overnight low with no follow through and get a real bounce going. Because we're heading back down to the low of today, and the low of last night is right behind it. I guess it's the same daily candle, but INJ, definitely one of the stronger names on the recovery. Reverse back burners. So those are now a thing. We can be looking for reverse back burners. We didn't quite get there on the Bitcoin bounce. The 5-minute RSI got up to 66, 67. But again, if I'm looking for a 4-hour lower high as the most likely scenario, I can be keeping an eye out for 15-minute RSI getting overbought. Again, it's just one data point. It's not enough for me to enter the trade. It's, do we have a bearish pattern shaping up and we're hitting shorter term RSI being overbought, looking for the longer term lower high. And so I'm sure there's altcoins out there that did get to 5-minute overbought that marked that top of the bounce last night. But Bitcoin, not one of them. Just make sure that if you're using reverse back burners, that it aligns with the most likely scenario on a longer term time frame. So here goes the Bitcoin bulls, another attempt at support. Nope, Bitcoin bears, I should say. NASDAQ 15-minute consolidation just beginning. We'll keep an eye on it. Thanks for raising the like ratio. All right, let's see what AVAX is doing. It definitely had one of the bigger breakouts leading into this weakness. Yeah, bounced right off. Let's see, did we get to hourly oversold? No, didn't even get there. Also, you have to keep in mind when you're looking back on price action, you can't just look at this and say, oh, well, the RSI only got to 54. At the low of that candle, the RSI got a lot lower than 54. And so just make sure that you're double checking. You can change the RSI here in the settings to low of the candle to tell you how low that it got. Because when you have long wicks like this, that RSI ends up having hit a lot lower than the chart prints. If that makes sense. But yes, AVAX looking just fine. Look at that 4-hour EMA 12. Simple statement. If AVAX is holding 4-hour EMA 12, the bulls don't have anything to worry about. Losing it, we'll zoom out. We'll scout a daily high or low. Definitely, time to be a bit cautious. Just knowing that everything's dropping. But easily one of the strongest altcoins that I've looked at since last night. So new short-term resistance on Bitcoin, 41.1 thousand. We would have to break that level to have any confidence that the low of last night can hold. So again, just keep in mind, bigger picture, weekly higher lows are the most likely scenario. It's just a question of how much do we retrace first. And so establish your game plan. Are you buying weekly consolidation? It's the kind of thing where I'm not just going to scale in to weekly consolidation, because what if we pull back to 32? I'm not going to say that's the most likely scenario, but it's a possible scenario. I like to wait for, let's just use a stock example. So I'm watching Disney. Can Disney confirm the first weekly uptrend in years? And so nice bounce. Here's the higher low. Can you confirm this uptrend? And so if I'm making an entry based on weekly consolidation, I want to use a stop level that's nearby where I say that's either the weekly higher low or I'm wrong and I stop out. I can't go off this level. It's way too far away. That's too much risk. It's not a good risk to reward trade. So if I'm looking at Bitcoin and I'm wanting to enter on weekly consolidation, again, aggressive bulls are just going to be scaling in. But I personally am more comfortable when I see a sign that a weekly higher low is shaping up, and I then say that is either the weekly higher low or I'm wrong. And I use that level as a stop because, again, there's not much else nearby to use as a stop to keep that risk limited. This also shifts the potential. If we're running straight up into an approved ETF headline, it's more likely sell the news. If we're seeing weekly consolidation and the headline comes out, it's a different setup. It's a possibility of a weekly bull flag. I'm not ruling out the possibility that an approved ETF marks a longer term top. I'm not saying the top. I'm not saying we're not going to hit all-time highs, but a top that leads to potentially a couple months of consolidation. Because even if you're bullish the ETF, like my buddy, saying billions of dollars have to be bought for the ETF, you get the approval headline, but then for the actual inflows to impact the price, there's a lag time between that, happening. So again, just be open to everything. And as I keep preaching, I am open to a 6-month lower high and long-term equilibrium. I am open to an all-time high. I will not be negatively impacted significantly if either of those situations happened. That said, because I'm not all in on all-time highs, I also won't make as much if we do go straight up to 69,000 plus. So I'm giving up some potential gains to be a bit more protective. And that's just because my priority number one is don't give back profit from the last 6 years in crypto. Other people's priority number one is make as much money as possible on this bull run. Those are two very different mindsets and approaches to how we're trading this market. And so you have to determine what is best for you. And obviously, if your mindset is make as much as possible in this bull run, your risk is higher. Just like 2017, that's the last time in crypto that I have had that mindset. And my risk and reward was much higher. On some of these pullbacks, I was giving back, let's just say I made thousands of %. And on some of the big drawdowns, because I was being aggressive, I would give back 2 times what my initial capital was. And then, of course, on the big bull moves, I'm making, 4 times what my initial capital was. But it goes both ways. If you're being really aggressive, the drawdowns definitely hurt more. Other crypto stocks. So again, just checking it. Coin is holding up the best. Coin is just now testing the low of Friday. And as long as 130 holds, the daily uptrend remains intact. So we got a tightening daily range trying to set a higher low above 130. MARA and Riot clearly weaker. Daily downtrend confirmed on Riot. And MARA lost the daily uptrend. So we're on the verge of weekly consolidation in MARA. It's already underway on Riot. So we're going to look for weekly higher lows here as well, but it's a much different standpoint on these crypto stocks because we didn't even break the summer highs. So, it's possible we set monthly lower highs on these crypto stocks. Just be aware that It's not the same setup as Bitcoin because we're not breaking the summer highs. Coin did break the summer highs, but MARA and Riot did not. And so look at this MARA chart and this double top of resistance. We broke with no follow through, but again, I'm open to this just being a long, drawn out tightening range into next year. We'll see how much follow through we get from the bears, but things have clearly shifted in the short term, and we will scout the weekly higher lows, and I will do my best to help us identify when those weekly higher lows are being set. Hourly on Bitcoin is a stair step to be keeping an eye on. Yep, that's a good one. Lots of candles, 8 candles in a row now. But again, it's just a weak bounce. There's nothing convincing about these bounce attempts at this point. Any possible way to view Dodge? I think I just type it in. Yeah, that worked. So top has set temporarily. Is weekly consolidation underway? Not yet. Still a weekly stair step on Doge. The big question on a chart that looks like this, which is different than Bitcoin. So let's go to the differences here. Bitcoin confirmed a little dinky daily downtrend because it had a lower high in there. So, well, it depends on what exchange you're looking at. Here goes Bitcoin bears. So on Coinbase, we set a lower high because Coinbase had an upper wick to 45,000 that other exchanges did not have. But either way, let's just say, on this big red candle that is now testing the low of yesterday, the most important aspect of how we recover from here on Doge or on Bitcoin is, do bears confirm a daily downtrend? I call this a sucker punch. I talk about this in stocks. So this is a sucker punch surprising the bulls, where the bears say, here I am, right in the face. And the bulls are, stunned, like, what happened? We had full control. What is going on? And then after the sucker punch happens and we find a bottom, then the bulls, get their wits about them and they're ready to fight. And so the big information after the sucker punch is, does the next bounce result in a lower high and a daily downtrend confirming? Because if that happens, that's the bears proving to us, nah, we got control now. You're ready to fight us and we're still winning. And part of that sucker punch is, of course, stops being triggered and some longs being liquidated. But that's the next most important bit of information. And so the NASDAQ just did this. The NASDAQ just lost the uptrend. It wasn't much of a sucker punch flush, but the bears never confirmed the daily downtrend. And here we are looking up at all-time highs coming into the picture. You have to confirm the downtrend to follow through. And so that's the case for Doge and Bitcoin bears. Next time we bounce, we have to confirm the daily downtrend if you're going to prove to us that you are now in the driver's seat. Would I scale into the 40,000 break? Again, that question is so vague. Do you have any exposure? How aggressive are you looking to be? The number one question is, are you aggressive or conservative? If you're conservative, you're not scaling into anything. You're waiting for either extreme oversold conditions or a level that you can say, that's a solid short-term support. I like the response to that level. We're changing trends back to the bulls on the shorter-term timeframes. I'm going to use that level as a stop. So if I had zero exposure and I've been sitting here watching Bitcoin run and I've been waiting for weekly consolidation to try and initiate a position, yeah, I start scaling in on a break of 40,000 to just get a piece because that's the pullback that I've been waiting for. But again, there's so many different scenarios based on what our individual positioning and goals are. All right. I appreciate you all watching. Sorry I can't check in on Bricken at the moment. I got to run. I'm going to live stream some stocks in a bit. Stay protective. This is the sucker punch, and we'll see what happens when the dust settles. 38,000 is key after 40,000. I'm going to be watching weekly EMA 12 if the bears prove a bit more follow through. And at this point, that weekly EMA 12 is trying to catch up to 38, but it's going to take another couple weeks to get there. So We'll see. Appreciate you watching. Thanks again for the likes. Again, this is the most viewed live stream and the most likes in a long time. Fear brings everybody out. What's going on? Everybody gets lulled into a sense of complacency. We just have to ensure that we don't get lulled into a sense of complacency. And again, it's those little points. I can look at the price action and say there are no red flags, but I can get little red flags based on social media sentiment and what, friends and other things are saying about crypto. Those in itself are not enough. Price action is king, but those can tell us to keep a bit cautious up here and don't get overly aggressive because we're getting signs of euphoria. Do good things. Check out that weekend video if you have not seen it yet. Again, I go in depth about concepts, and we will see you shortly later this week.